All right, it worked. What's going on, guys? A little bit late tonight. Was having some technical difficulties, so I know you guys were all waiting on pins and needles to watch this. But it's 8:30, give or take. We got it going now. Tonight we got Mike Taravella is going to be joining us from Rand Partners, the awesome investment arm behind Jake and Gino, who you guys are probably all familiar with the books and the podcast and stuff like that. But this is the man behind some of the magic. Going to be able to give us some insight and stuff on how everything's going over there. So he's on now. Mike, thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. Happy to be on, and more importantly, congrats on the acquisition today. Big W for Toro, and
Yeah,
making Corona look easy, man.
yeah. No, I hear you. It was pleasantly surprised to get it done. It was up and down for a while there, so it was a good piece of news that we didn't have to extend yet again. So happy it didn't. We didn't get caught up in the extra principal and income stuff. Happy we were able to close. Happy not all of our capital backed out. So we made it. We made it work as we always seem to do. So happy it got done.
Yeah, absolutely,
But who cares about me? We are here to get your insights and your experiences and what you've been seeing going on, and have a discussion as well. Just very quickly, 1, 2, 3 minutes. Just who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Yeah, I'm Mike Taravella. I'm originally from Michigan. I did the CPA route, was an auditor for Ernst Young, worked for Dan Gilbert, the owner of Quicken Loans and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Worked with a lot of his startup stuff, but more importantly, got my inspiration from him and just his wealth story of just buying up Detroit and
Mm-hmm.
making it so much better. So he inspired me to get my 2 single-family properties back in Michigan. But I realized, why do I have to do more and more jobs every single day? So while working, being a CPA, it was nonstop going. So I realized there's got to be a quicker scale, especially working with the startups. I preached processes and building them. So, 2 years ago, met with John Kasman, a great mentor of mine, and helped me introduce multifamily. Went to his event, and then just hit the ground running of educating myself for the past year. Still doing the CPA. Worked for a developer in Chicago, but then over a year ago now, I've been with the Jake and Gino guy, Jake Senziano and Gino Barbaro, and being their asset manager for Rand Partners, and just overseeing the 1,600 units so far in the Knoxville, Louisville, and Lexington area,
Mm-hmm.
and then just trying to find the next one. So it's about 100 million assets under management, and we're just riffing every day and just working with great people like you, and just constantly trying to navigate the seas of everything going on.
Love it. So just quickly, because I know we've been in and around and spoken, but hadn't really ever heard your full background. The developer was a real estate developer you moved to, and
Yep.
you were doing the accounting there, or you were more on
Yeah.
the.
I
Okay.
was in the accounting, so it took me 5 years to realize accounting I never fit.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's like, you're the most extrovert accountant I've ever met. I was like, yeah, it took me that long to figure out
Yeah.
it's the accounting was the issue, not me. So the hardest part was just finding and just studying up on the finance piece and just getting it. I've done the modeling before with startups,
Mm-hmm.
brand new, from esports organizations to media production companies. Numbers are numbers, and just real estates are just a little bit easier to figure out than an esports team. But it's been a cool journey so far to get to where I am today, and then just hoping to grow as much as possible every single day.
Awesome. Love it. Maybe we'll have to do another thing, because I think it's really interesting to hear how you tasted a lot of different things, and I think I did something similar. So maybe one time we'll just do a random Q&A
Yeah,
thing. But
absolutely.
obviously want to focus on the pandemic side of things and how it's been impacting real estate and the business and stuff you are currently doing. So can you talk to us a little bit, what the last few or several weeks have been like, starting from when it really first started hitting the country, what you guys were doing, how
Yeah.
it's been since April's rolled around, because that's been, the big timeline with, for rental properties, collections, and multifamily, and just stuff like that.
Yeah, so from the beginning, we're kind of just, I think, like everyone else, not sure of the impact. Is it a quick blip? What's going on? But constantly just been scouring the news of what's happening and the impact. And April 1, I know we were all holding our breaths to see what would happen. We're in our markets in Knoxville and Lexington, we've had not nearly as many cases. So our collections have
Mhm.
been 5 to 6% below where we were last month. And then Louisville, even though it's a lot more cases comparative to Knoxville and Lexington, but the slowdown, we've had about 10 to 13% decrease in collections.
Hmm.
It's been, every day, is, I'm sure you can imagine with your groups and people on here, every day we're flying through all the information at the seat of our pants. We just got our PPP for loan yesterday, so that money hit. So that was
Awesome.
2 weeks ago. We were just going through all the paperwork, proving out as it was going, and submitted it. We had a great relationship with the community bank here in Knoxville that helped navigate those pieces. And so
Hmm.
we're just getting that finalized. The stimulus check hit this week, but we've also been really because we're vertically integrated, our property management team has been really every other day reaching out to the residents and being
Hmm.
a rock. Because if you just look at the news every single day, the world's ending. But like anything else of these downturns, they quickly come back up. So we're just constantly reminding our residents, here's the different avenues for financial assistance. Here's how they can help. Here's the government stimulus. Hey, if you have to pay your tax bill April 15th, of all days we're doing this,
Hmm.
you don't have to pay them until July now. So just kind of just being a rock for our residents. We had in our most recent podcast with Jake and Gino, they had Joey Coleman, who's how to never lose a customer again. So we're
Okay.
doing a touch point to we have the toilet paper wrapped up in like gift wrap with a Ram logo on it. And the touch point's going to be, hey, during these crappy times, here's a roll of toilet paper, since we know it's been a mad rush for it. So we're just
Hmm.
being rocks for our residents and for investors. We're the one thing I've had a lot of conversations calling every single one. But I think one thing we're doing differently is every Friday from now, starting this Friday, 2 to 4 p.m., we're kind of having an open office hours of we're just, hey, here's the Zoom link, guys. You want to hop in and chat, ask any questions, we're open to it, and just get them a pulse. We're having our webinar tomorrow, but people have questions on what's going on. A lot of our investors have been doing, investing actively.
Hmm.
So we just want to make sure they're as informed as our residents and everything going on, and how we can help them with their properties as well.
Yeah, I love it. I think you guys are doing a lot of good things. I think I've always found, looking from the outside in and seeing stuff, I think you guys do a tremendous job of taking care of tenants and being a really, tenant first management arm. So that's what I was really interested to get you on and talk about the vertical integration side, because it's
Yeah.
for us, we have, five technically different property management companies we work with, mainly two, one in Ohio, one in Florida. We have a couple off things. So everybody does it slightly differently. So it's always really interesting to hear. Have you found though that, because it was interesting to hear you were talking about collections and the hit of how many cases there are and stuff like that. Have you found a correlation on the property itself with how many people are getting it and or getting unemployment and what your collection rate has been? Because I haven't seen that for our properties.
I haven't either. I just think it's the more, populous. Louisville's more manufacturing.
Hmm.
And I know in our Lexington property, we have a lot more of the managers of very nice restaurants and areas, a couple people going to University of Kentucky, but I think it's just more of that professional person piece.
Hmm.
So I think it's just been an interesting sea of the different markets. Knoxville, even to be honest, down here, a lot of people, it's been business as usual, which is kind of scary, but because you just see like the New Yorks, even back home in Michigan, it's pretty rough out there. So it's every market hits differently, but I
Sure.
just think in Louisville, I think it's hit a little bit harder relative to our portfolio. But even in the end, we're dealing with people, and it's just trying to be as certain as possible. So we've had a couple people even reach out on our Facebook who are asking for help, and we just navigated them to our PMs and just making sure, hey, we're here for you. I think it's the average communication we've had is every other day, whether it's call, text, or email. We're just going through and letting them know, here are the best avenues, whether it's temporary assistance for needy families. There's a local neighborhood scout, I believe it was, for Louisville.
Hmm.
Any way we can help them, we're here to do so.
Yeah, no, I think it's important because, you know, like you said, every single day something's changing and new information is being put out and, things are changing. And I know even today, so we had all of our calls for our Florida properties for the biweekly, and one or two of our on-sites didn't understand how the new unemployment checks were working. So the normal unemployment plus the 600 per week, they didn't understand how that worked. One thought it was just 600. The other one just didn't realize. And nobody's fault. It's just there's so much going on and so many things to worry about. Being able to communicate everything and keep everybody on the same page is going to be one of the most important things we can do right now. So I think that's awesome here. I know from the very beginning, our manager's done a great job putting together resource packages for our tenants. So just information of like local resources, how to do unemployment, where to do it. We just sent out the direct links to like claim the stimulus check if you haven't got it, which was crazy because I didn't even realize how to do that until today. I had to ask for help. So, I'm not even qualified, but that's another whole thing. It's because I'm a 1099, so I'm like, yeah, it's annoying. But
Yeah.
be that as it may, so it's like a lot of things. So like even today for that, it was like, okay, I got a small taste of what a lot of people are going through, and I'm doing a fairly decent job, in my opinion, of staying well informed and understanding what's going on, at least on a day to day. And for even something like that, for me to be like, okay, how do I do this? It's just a reminder of like, hey, there's going to be a ton of people who are way worried about other things that aren't going to spend the time or have the resources to figure it out. And the more we can help those people, not only is it the right thing to do, the good thing to do, it's just going to help the properties run better. It's going to help everybody get what they need to get done, and help everybody else that relies on these properties. Because it's not just us and tenants. It's the employees, the managers, the contractors, the vendors, people that work on the property, investors, insurance. So there's a lot of other people. I remember seeing there's like one graphic and it was like some sort of like 0 to 100. And it was like every section I think it was like $1. So for like every dollar the property brings in, which is like a percentage, right? It like broke down the sense of like where that money was going to.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people who aren't in the business wouldn't understand how little of every single dollar of rent actually comes back to the owner / investor. So I think that's important.
I
So
think too, it's
yeah, go ahead.
important. I think it's important that even the more you have a plan, the more certainty you can provide. I mean, we told our entire team, hey, no one's being laid off.
Mhm.
This is a time where we need to band together. We're essential to we're essential services. So because we did that little brief message, the replies we've gotten from property managers to maintenance sites, even we've been on meetings, like all company meetings, and I could see the fear in everyone's eyes. So even having that plan for the PMs, even to your residents of like, here's how to do all these things, because the more uncertainty there is, the more fear creeps up. People think that back to their human basic needs of I need to get food, I need to hoard money, but it's like we're going through this together, and those times of in these crises and this time, you get remembered for the good and the bad.
Mhm.
So you could one wrong thing and you could be on the internet forever of the evil landlord that's charging rent during these times. So
Mhm.
just maintaining that high level of customer service like your PM groups have done is just how you get resonated and remembered going forward, for good or for better or for worse.
Yeah, I do think that stuff. I think for me, I'm less concerned about what is going to be out there because that stuff goes away very quickly. Everybody's going to
Yep.
forget about the company that did X, Y, and Z during this period.
Yep.
But I think just from like a moral standpoint, we don't want to be that group. So
Yep.
it is there. You see the stuff, you see the stuff and like the articles, and a couple people send it to me, and I'm like, but who like that's going to go away in 6 months. Like it's going to be old news. It'll be on to the next thing. It'll be, think about it in October. It's going to be all about the election and how all this stuff is being affected. So, that's going to go by the wayside in my opinion, but it does matter beyond that. Like that shouldn't be the driving force of like, hey, Chris said people are going to forget, so I'm going to treat people like shit. Like, no, treat good and help them because it's the right thing to do. And, it's what we should all be doing is helping each other during this time. But
Absolutely.
I do think it's important. So obviously the payroll protection plan you guys went and got in place. Have you guys looked at any other types of loans or grants that you guys are looking to apply for or qualified for, anything like that?
Um, Not at the moment. I think we
Mhm.
peaked at the SBA, but I think if you do the SBA, you're not qualified for the PPP. I know we've talked the forbearance by far is the absolute last resort,
Yep.
and no matter what happens, we're not trying to do that. And
Hmm.
we've told our other investors who are active in the space, hey, it's even though it's not a ding on your credit. I mean, there's no way you come out of this unscathed if you're that group. So
Hmm.
we're just being I think our collections are good, but it's kind of like when we were, 2 weeks ago, we're like, April 1st, let's hear what happens. Now we're kind of doing the next thing for May. But I mean, like Knoxville, I think it's Knoxville, we're like have a 6-week plan to be back to normal. That
Hmm.
it's pretty wild for here, but Lexington, things have been smooth. Even the cases have there's hasn't been any deaths since last week, knock
Hmm.
on wood. But in our markets, things are becoming more normalized. But I'm curious to see what happens with Louisville in that case. But you know, I know our PM teams are just constantly calling and just being the rocks for them and our residents. But yeah, we haven't checked out anything else. But like you said, who knows? Tomorrow there'll be PPP wasn't a thing until like Monday 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So who knows what will happen next?
Yeah, no, I know there's talks of like extra stimulus. We were actually talking today. I hadn't even heard of it. One of our managers brought it up. I guess around like a week ago, a bunch of Democrats headed up by I think Chuck Schumer are pushing for um what's the word I'm looking for? Hazard pay for all of essential workers. And they're
Yep.
saying it's going to be like up to $25,000 through the
Wow.
rest of the year. I think it equates when I started reading about it, the idea was it's like $13 an hour is like
Wow.
an extra $13 an hour through the end of the year. So it's not like, this ends tomorrow and, you get a $25,000 check. I think I haven't seen a lot since when I started looking at it quickly. And this is something, as I learn about it, I'm going to dig into it more. So like right now I read like 2 articles because I was like on the phone and I was like trying to figure it out. I was like, oh, this is a thing. I hadn't heard about it. I wasn't sure if it was a real thing. And it was obviously they are classified as essential workers. And they were thinking, oh, maybe I'm going to get $25,000 from the government for this. I don't know if it's true or not, if it's even going to pass. So that's like something we're looking at of, hey, can we go in and understand what this is? Who's it going to apply to? I get the feeling it's more for like
The nurses.
doctors, nurses, like pharmacy workers, things like that, or at least that's what was named. It
Yep.
said it. Everyone said it. It said include, almost like including or like giving examples. It didn't say it was necessarily like these 5 things.
Comprehensive list. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's things like that where you just continue to learn about new things and try to figure it out and how you can implement it and apply it and get it for other people. So, if that hasn't come up, I'm sure it's going to make their way over of, some of your team is going to look at it. So I think it was interesting. I like the idea too of what you guys are doing with your investors of that open period. I know we tend to be a little bit more hands off with our updates of, hey, we're going to give you not a skeleton update where it's more bare bones, but we're um, written updates every quarter with financial information that you can look to see how it's doing. And if you want more, reach out to us. And we always preach that, like reach out, reach out, reach out. Not a ton of people take it up on us. And I think one, it's just who our investors are, and two, everything's been going pretty smoothly up until this point, until what's going on. And we've been mostly fine. Our collections were, some were right on target. The others were anywhere from, 1 to 8% below, 9% below, depending upon the
Right.
property. I would say on average, probably like 6 or 7%. Um, we're just trying to be more cognizant of like reverse engineering and being like, hey, you get caught up in like, hey, we're in the day to day, we're in the weeds. You hear about everything. It's tough to imagine sometimes being the investor, not hearing things day to day, and you hear all the shit of like, this is going on and that's going on, and collections nationwide, missing by 12% and stuff, and you're like, well, what's going on with us? Like, we haven't gotten an update since, we do it every calendar quarter. So they haven't gotten one since Q4. Q1's coming up.
Yep.
We usually do it on a 30-day delay, so end of April. So we just sent out updates to everyone this week. We had like one or two we're still in the process of sending. Again, just being, just touching base, letting people know what's going on, giving collections and stuff like that. But I think it's really interesting to hear that kind of open hours, almost like a professor.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how that goes. You guys haven't done it yet. This is the first Friday you're
No,
doing it, right?
because we have our investor webinar Thursday, and
Okay.
so I send a communication Monday. Thursday will be a reminder, and then Friday we'll see what happens. So I'll share with kind of the insights. But I've had a lot of talk because a lot of people are asking, collections and how those are going. So I know a couple investors. I have like a weekly. They want to see the collection numbers, so I just send it to them. It's
Oh,
not.
really?
It's
You have
yeah.
people asking for it that much?
It's just an extra, I've been, a couple investors were curious and I
Mhm.
know they're active in this space. So I just wanted to show them. Some worry a little bit more than others, but, I'd rather be more transparent than less and just show them,
Mhm.
hey, what's going on. Because then, for example, too, say we're going to the webinar, they're like, how things going? It's not a fear piece. It's, hey, here's it going. And then it's just, we dropped in the toilet paper news and stuff like that. So, it's just like an interesting touch point. And, it's a interesting piece to just kind of monitor it. But a lot of it, and I can only say for our 100 active investors, about only 4 to 5 have
Mhm.
been asking, not even asking for it, but putting it out there, and they've been okay with it, and it's been good to go.
Yeah. So I think we just got an interesting question. You only care about collection numbers. I think, actually, I'll let you answer it first and then I'll chime in. Is that,
I think it's a leading indicator of how things are going
Mhm.
because, I mean, because of everything going on, what is going on at the ground level and that rent collection number. And you have all the historical data going back. But I think the biggest piece is, we're looking at occupancy, delinquency, and our marketing numbers. So if our occupancy is there, the next thing we're looking at is delinquency. And
Mhm.
because of that, we have to continually monitor it, especially given this piece. But even then, we're looking at our leads coming in. Obviously, that's going to be slower, but those are the lead KPI of what's going on, and whether it has to be more of a customer service piece, getting a pulse for our residents. That number is what's driving it, and how we can solve the problems for the residents and help them during this time. So I did see that question, but it's just a leading indicator of what's going on at the ground floor for us.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I agree 100%. I think too, it's the biggest uncertainty going into this month too, because it wasn't like you were never going to have vacancy in your market go from 5% to 15% overnight. Like, that's not just going to happen, nor do I think that's going to happen, because everybody needs a place to live. I didn't think concessions or rent were going to fall off that quickly, because people are locked into contracts. You're not just going to lower them. So that would take a little bit longer. I think those are things we're thinking about going forward of, how do market rents happen, market concessions, market vacancy, things like that. So it's really the collection side of it was like, hey, this started middle of March towards end of March. So it's like, you know, so it was like, as it was going on, James, if you just tuned in, that's the Tenants was literally the whole first half of this thing is what we spoke about. So when the recording goes out, you can go watch it. We just had another question, but
Yeah, no, I saw. That's why we
yeah.
both laughed at the same time.
But yeah, so it's like those are leading things. And then when you think about the expense side of things, not a whole lot is going to change. So your expenses are your expenses, don't worry about it, bud. So from that standpoint, it's just like collections was the biggest unknown. It's, you could bill out $1 million or $5 million for your property, but if everybody decides not to pay, or the stimulus package wasn't in or whatever, that's going to affect, what your collections end up being. So that's why I think everybody, especially in our space, let alone just rental properties and things like that, was collections have been, the name of the game for the last, called the last, from today until the last couple of weeks. So, and I think it'll continue to be, the number one thing that everyone's concerned about. I think the other thing people are concerned about too is, cash reserves, operating expenses, things like that. Just trying to hoard cash and stuff like that. I don't know about you guys, but we've told all our investors we're halting our Q1 distribution and we're holding off distributions going forward. Not that the properties haven't produced cash flow to give out a distribution. However, we want to not distribute cash. God forbid we have to ask for it back. Are you guys doing the same thing?
Yeah, I've called all of our active investors and let them know that we're delaying distributions. Like you said, we've hit the mark and we're just going forward with it. But I think it's just cash is king. That's why we did the PPP. We don't think, we might need it. You might not. We don't know. And I think too, we weren't doing this in the 0809. So this is kind of our closest 0809 experience of what do we got to do to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
We know if the cash is uncertain, we need to hoard cash as a business to survive. I think that's like the biggest pain point we've seen in businesses is even personally, like how do we store enough cash to survive this 1, 2, 3 month crisis?
Mm-hmm.
It could be even longer, but we need to, store as much cash as possible. And many of our investors are totally understand about that. So yes, James, I did graduate high school in '09, James. So you're totally right. But I mean, you hear about it, and being from Detroit, we saw it. I mean, from my point of view, but cash is king, liquidity is king, and that's why we're here with our investors being a true fiduciary by stockpiling it. And many have been totally understanding of the situation. Obviously, some of them weren't happy, because of the promise of real estate, but this is a long-term asset that we're going through. So it's just a key piece, and just realizing that this is one of the best asset classes we can be in.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know too, it's very rare that any passive investor in a syndication is relying heavily or solely on that cash flow income to support their lifestyle. Most have their own holdings or other investments, and I would say a far majority of them are still working and have other capital in. So, I mean, we have very few, if any, that heavily rely on it. And any that, are disappointed with it, or like I was not counting on it, but would have liked to have seen it. It's not their only revenue stream and things like that. So, that's important to know too. And I would encourage anybody, if you're looking at a syndication, you should, and you're giving up control in any sort of investment, you should not rely on the money coming from that to support your lifestyle, because you don't have control. And if you need the money, there's nothing you can do about it unless you have a clause in your agreement. But I doubt that's the case. So, but that's a whole other conversation and topic. Awesome. So I do want to also touch just on like the personal side quickly too. Where are you based at again? Nashville or Knoxville?
Knoxville.
Cool. So what has it been like in Knoxville? How have it, not just the property side, but like, has it been like crazy? Is it people fighting for toilet paper, supermarkets? Is things shut down? Or people kind of respecting social distancing? Things like that.
Yeah, it's it's been a whirlwind. So you'll read the news and see it all. And I just see like the Michigan where, hospitals are looking like military, but then I go outside and I'm like, another day. Like for a while, it just took a lot of people to be like, "Hey, this is normal."
Mm-hmm.
I stockpiled 3 weeks ago on food. It was just working out of here, and then like people were like just driving around like nothing happened. So for a while, it was just pretty wild, and like how I don't, from what I saw, of just the everyday life didn't really change.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I mean, we got some nicer weather down here. I saw it snowed in like Chicago where I was from. So,
jeez, that's crazy.
we're just working, going on walks and just trying to keep the sanity and just a lot of FaceTime, But I blessed to be in a position where it's not like in New York, like where you're from, like where you're based out of. But I think I have a lot of family some family work in the medical. My girlfriend's family's brother's a doctor, and so it's just like it is absolutely wild of what is going on, and just the PPE piece and everything. You hear these crazy stories are real, like, and then just but personally, I mean, we're good here. We're safe down in Knoxville. All of our team is safe. There's a couple scares with our team members, but they're good, and just trying to be I respecting I'd rather be hunkered down here than get sick or get anyone of my family or anyone else sick. So I know we're just safe hunkered down here and not keeping it serious, but yeah, definitely not like in New York. And a lot of our investors are based in New York, and it's just wild to hear these stories. So shout out to all the nurses and all the frontline people during this, because this is no joke. And just hearing the stories of 20-hour shifts and no PPE in Michigan, it's wild. So I commend everyone and thank everyone for doing that.
Yeah, no, I know that's, goes without saying, I think, but it's always good to do it. I know my cousin works, she's a OBGYN, works in a hospital, and it's been crazy for her. I haven't really spoken to her that much, but just seeing some of the stuff that she's been talking about and posting and stuff like that has been crazy. But yeah, I've heard, I worked from home in Brooklyn from March 15th through that Friday or Saturday. And then I came out east to my mom's place on Long Island. So I've heard, even that week, it was like early on, it was like all the retail stores were shut down. The streets were basically empty. Wasn't a lot going on. Even like everyone was just very fidgety. And then came out here, and it's been much quieter out here, even though Long Island also became like a hot spot for it. But I think just because everything's more spread out and things like that, I'm also I'm holed in my place. I barely go out except to run and go to the supermarket once a week, or, every half a week, or.
Yeah, I've been doing Instacart just to minimize my risk. And even then, hearing the strike on that has been wild. So
yeah,
it's unlike any other time.
I don't mind as much going because I'm not planning on like being in contact with anyone. And, I think the risk is still so low if I'm, minimizing it. I don't really feel like having someone do my groceries for me. I'm always like, I'm weird. I've never wanted to do it because I always think about like if I go to the produce aisle and I'm like, oh, what if they pick like something that's super ripe or like super not? I'm just like, just whatever. I digress, but I haven't wanted to do it.
I've picked out the wrong groceries for my girlfriend so many times, and I'd rather have the blame on someone else.
There you go. So pass on the blame. I like that. There you go. But no, I think that's really good to hear. All right, cool. I think this is a really great place to wrap it up. Mike, thanks so much for doing this.
Absolutely.
Anybody who's on live right now, we are recording this on Zoom. You can obviously click the bob up top and go follow Mike on Instagram. But anybody watching the recording, Mike, can you tell them where to follow you, where to learn more about you, your company, and get in touch with you?
I say it's my name on LinkedIn, Mike T at randcre.com, randpartners.com, all the ways to reach out to us. And, Chris, thank you for doing this. I know we've been clowning on Instagram for a while now, but it's good. You're the man, and appreciate for doing this and being the rock for everyone and on the IG and everything else. So appreciate you for doing this and happy to be on.
Yeah, you're too kind, man. You got any final thoughts, advice, words of wisdom you can leave people with?
I think kind of what we were talking about earlier about if you're looking for deals, those reserves are going to be very killer. So just get with people who are in the finance piece and just pick everyone's brain on it. It's so hard to do. It's a team sport. Keep building your team. Keep following people like Chris. Reach out. We're here to help. It's tough times, even though we're in the social distancing piece. We're happy to help in any way possible. So always reach out to ask any questions. There's no dumb question.
Love it. Thanks again, Mike. Everybody watching, have a great night, and thank you for watching.
All right. Take it easy, guys.